Jesus gave to his disciples a parable about their need to pray always and not to lose heart. And it would help to know why he came to that point with them, that he wanted to tell them this. And so I'm going to back us up a few steps into chapter 17, because he had a couple conversations there. One was with some of the leaders of Israel, and they were asking Jesus to let them know what was the time of the coming kingdom. In other words, when is God going to restore Israel? When is God going to intervene into this broken world and this broken, beat-down nation? And when is he going to restore us as a kingdom and draw all the peoples of the earth to his law and his truth? And Jesus said to them, don't be looking for signs and things you can see. The kingdom of God is in the midst of you. And then he says to his disciples, who presumably have heard this conversation, many people will talk about signs. They'll talk about natural disasters, earthquakes and floods and famines. And they'll talk about wars between nations. And they'll talk about all kinds of problems and difficulties. And when people talk about that and say, he's coming, the kingdom's coming, it's the end, don't listen to them. Don't follow them. Indeed, he said to them, God will come. God's kingdom will come. But he said, I don't know when or where. The kingdom of God is in the midst of you. So he says, what you need to do is to pray always and not lose heart, because there are so many things that cause us to lose heart. There are so many things happening around us, near and far. Things in our communities, violence and troubles of all kinds. Whole regions in the world that are in war. Natural disasters, Hurricane Matthew, the devastation of that and the loss of life. We hear about all kinds of things, and from time to time people will stand up and say, this is it. This is a sign. And Episcopalians are pretty good about ignoring that. Which is a good thing, because I think that's a good, faithful listening to Jesus. But Jesus says what we need to do is to pray always and not lose heart. And he gives a visual picture of this parable. And it's interesting, because it's not like when he taught the Lord's Prayer and sort of taught a way to pray and some of the other things he said about prayer. This time he's talking about praying always, and he gives us this image of a widow who is just persistently never losing heart, never giving up. She's got this crooked judge who could care less. He's not at all interested in doing what the law says a judge should do, which is seek what's right without preference to rich or poor, and do things that establish the shalom, the peace, and the righteousness of the community. And this judge isn't like that at all. But she doesn't lose heart, and she keeps coming and coming and coming to have her issue treated fairly. And Jesus is saying to his disciples, I think he's saying to us, be people of persistence. The kingdom is among us. We don't really see signs. We get glimpses. There's a lot of discouragement. It looks like nothing is happening often, or even only bad things are happening. But remember, it's like leaven hidden in the dough. You don't even see it, and it's there, and it's going to work. Or it's like that tiny mustard seed that you can barely make out, and you put it in the ground, and you can't see it, and then something really great is going to come out of it. But you have to wait. And he gives us these images of waiting and trusting and persevering and keeping at it. Be like that widow. And that's a form of prayer, the prayer of persistence, the prayer of perseverance, the prayer of trusting in spite of the way things appear to be. And so, at St. Matt's, we continue. We persevere in teaching our children in our Sunday schools. Even though the world around them is incredibly corrupt and violent and in many ways diseased morally and ethically, we want them to know who Jesus is, the Good Shepherd. We want them to see something that's beautiful and good and true, like a light shining in a dark place. And we invite our youth to go on mission trips so that they might go out into the world kind of powerless and yet see how the kingdom really is there in our midst. God really is working. It may not be the way we want, but it's real. And they get glimpses. And we continue to persevere in feeding hungry people and in welcoming homeless people as part of our community. We're not alone in this, persevering. And we sometimes see people get on their feet and get jobs and get into homes. And we get a little glimpse of the way it can be. And we gather and we worship in the world that's forgetting more and more about such things. To persevere in prayer, to keep coming back, keep remembering, and crying out to God. And so, Jesus says at the end of this parable, nevertheless, when the Son of Man comes, when that day that no one knows and can't predict comes, when God's kingdom really arrives among us, when the Son of Man comes, will he find faith? It's not a topic change. Will he find that perseverance, that prayerful persistence, that trust, that working as part of God's life that's so invisible? Will the Son of Man find faith in you? Yes, he will. Won't he? You can say amen or yes if you want. Will the Son of Man find faith in this parish? Yes. Will the Son of Man find faith in countless gatherings of people of faith and goodwill all over the world? Yes. The kingdom of God is in our midst. It's right here in you, with us. The Son of Man will find faith. And for now, Jesus says, pray always and don't lose heart. Thanks be to God.